Hello, hello.
Hey, what's up? I thought I'd do something a little different this time. Okay, here we go. Let's get it going. I'm Jeff, by the way, if you're new. El Jefe Tacoma. This is a book I wrote. It's called Day One. Chapter 33 Grundle. Grundle was furious. How could this happen? He felt personally responsible for Portilion's injury. He didn't know how, but he felt somehow that he was at fault. Ayana dabbed at his forehead with a damp rag. Grundle, please, you have to rest.
I've rested enough. I must learn who has done this.
His muscles were fully flexed and straining his tunic. The matriarch is interviewing Portilion now. We shall know soon enough. They sat in silence, Ayana sipping her tea, Grundle tapping his fingers on the arm of his chair. The curtain swept open. The matriarch entered, helped along by Shireen and one of the acolytes. She spoke quickly and with some obvious anger.
Someone has poisoned this young man.
She glared at Grundle as if he'd done it.
What do you know, giant?
Grundle was taken aback.
Your mercy,
Ayana corrected softly.
Beloved mother.
Grundle grunted.
Beloved mother, I don't know who would have wanted to.
It suddenly hit him.
Faline.
He sat in silence. As the seconds ticked by, his memories fell into place, one brick at a time. He buried his head in his hands.
My goddess, I am to blame.
Matriarch Elion scoffed. She passed a quick look of approval in Ayana's direction and slapped Grundle on the thigh.
Horseshit. You were a patsy. It happens to everyone if they live long enough. You think I've never had my chain pulled? Ha!
Grundle was confused. Who knew the beloved matriarch was so earthy? How did she know he wasn't responsible? Was he so harmless to look at?
Start at the beginning. I want to know everything.
Oh my god, I love Elion. She's so cool. Chapter 34 Faline. Captain Yontus wasn't having it. Faline would need to pay back the cost of the keypad as well as the price of the journey. If she'd known what Faline was involved in, she'd never have taken the job. She was going to drop the murderess at the nearest station, regardless of how unwise it might be. Faline had to try hard not to kill the woman. One, because she hated being told she was wrong, and two, because the good captain was a stuck-up old bitch who was in need of a good beating. Fuck her. They dropped her off on a strange, barely populated base in the jungles of Terra Suirine. What a nightmare. Her face was all over the news, and she couldn't very well hook up with a new crew if they thought she'd bring the heat onto them. And there was no way any random mercenary outfit would come anywhere near this boring planet.
Listen, if you could just front me some of what my contact paid you, I could get the rest as soon as I get a good job.
The captain sniffed.
On this planet? Good luck.
The woman strolled down the ramp, confident that Faline would follow. She was chastened, broken, rendered inert. Who knows? She might end up just another pathetic farm wife with dreams of a past life of adventure. If she wasn't picked up by a bounty hunter, or worse, an actual galactic authority, she was fucked. Royally so. Such a badass. I mean, what is there to say? Is there anything really there's a planet called Terras Wareen. Um Apparently people kind of follow the law if they think they might get wrapped up in it. Chapter 35. Joran.
Blessed Mother?
A knock at the door caught Aeonna's attention. She'd loud ass fucking city. She'd fallen asleep at Portilion's bedside, a book of scripture still clutched against her chest. A thin strand of drool stretched as she turned to face the visitor.
I hope I'm not interrupting anything.
The old man was wearing a huge smile.
Joran!
Aeonna sprang from the chair and ran to him, throwing her arms around his neck and shoving her head into his chest. Joran laughed.
Your mercy, please. The old knees are killing me.
She pulled back, looking him over. Her smile was winsome, almost flirty. He edged his way over to a puffy chair and grabbed an arm. He groaned audibly as he slid down into the seat. She knelt before him. Her eyes were brimming. He reached out, brushed back a lock of dark curls from her face, and wiped a tear from her cheek with his thumb. She was looking up at him with an expression of deep and abiding care.
Our boy's alive, I hear.
She smiled again and squeezed Joran's calf.
He is indeed. Joran, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. It was the most incredible thing.
She proceeded to tell him the whole story.
Gods, how she could talk. There was nothing quite as annoying or as alluring as the prattle of a young woman. Unfortunately, she was among the most beautiful women in the galaxy, and he, Joran Barlow, was her slave. He'd always been a fool for a woman of class and beauty, and she wasn't lacking for either. After her tale wrapped up, he asked her about her promotion. She told him all about that as well. Inside of 5 minutes, she was unloading everything that had been driving her batty. Funny, I could listen to her complain all night. It's chuckle-worthy. Just then, Portilion groaned. One of Aeonna's aides came in. They crowded around the young man's bed. Joran, is that you?
Joran patted the boy on the arm.
You bet, buddy. Glad to see you made it.
Portilion smiled. It was clear that every movement, even blinking, caused him pain.
I had help from the daughters. You should have seen it. It was wonderful.
You'd have thought the kid had been invited to a 3D orgy. He was so excited.
They showed me the video.
He coughed sharply.
Aeonna told me all about it. Listen, kiddo, I need to talk to the lady about something. Can I leave you with the nurse?
Portilion looked to Aeonna, who seemed confused, yet intrigued. He nodded. Once they were out of earshot, Joran grabbed Aeonna and dragged her into an alcove. He swung the curtain shut. Aeonna was shivering. She had no idea what was coming next.
Someone tried to kill him. Us too.
She nodded. Grundle and Portillion had each shared their concerns.
Joran, you are all safe here. I wield the hammer of justice. None would dare pierce these walls.
He nodded.
I don't doubt it, my lady. Your power is not the issue. The primary issue is who wants Portillion dead. Grundle tells me it was Faline. It all makes sense now.
Joran nodded, but drew down to sit and set his jaw.
Your mercy,
She interrupted.
please, Joran, call me Ayanna.
He nodded again. His neck was going to be sore after all this agreeing.
Ayanna, we can fairly assume that Faline was the agent. But who's pulling the strings? Why would they risk using shadowing? What does Portillion have that they need? Perhaps it's the Avandi. She lost the statue. She lost Portillion. And now she's losing her grip on the story. Maybe she thinks killing him will help her popularity.
Joran shook his head.
No, it's not her style. Too clean. Too precise. Besides, we know he was being targeted before we ever reached Thermopylae. And I can't see the Avandi doing business with a necromancer. You would put it past her? She's done so much that's evil. What's a little more corruption?
Joran took a long time to answer.
Whoever it is must have known Portillion was among the discoverers of the statue. For whatever reason, they don't want the existence of the dig site to be shared. Perhaps Portillion is the only one who knows how to find it. Or maybe he saw something he shouldn't have seen.
She pondered this.
But how would they know he hadn't passed on such information to others? Good question. Perhaps it's one we should have asked.
So it's mostly exposition, but I always enjoy Joran and Ayanna working together, solving mysteries. They just have a real kinship, a real bond. How we doing on time? 13 minutes? I'll keep going. Chapter 36, Maki.
She was so tired. She felt like she'd been on the run her whole life. Here she was, back home, and she couldn't go anywhere without a disguise. Her talented protégés had failed completely to remove the threat, so she would have to take care of it on her own. She was a practiced killer, a shrewd tactician, a woman unburdened by conscience. She should have been the perfect killer, but she hadn't wanted to be in the thick of things, hadn't wanted to be captured on film. Thankfully, Fritz's goons had destroyed any trace of her on the base's cameras or employment records, as well as neutralizing anyone who'd fought in the dockyard shootout. That left only the four so-called heroes, Verkelet, Stargazer, Celine, and Barlow. And now they'd shown up here in the City of Secrets, presumably to track her down and put her to the sword. So far, they hadn't exposed her name or likeness to the public, but she couldn't be certain that they wouldn't. So she'd laid low, stayed out of sight. And now here she was, walking right into the heart of the city to commit the most insane operation. Curse that madman Creel.
His ridiculous lust for violence had put her in grave peril indeed. She reached the large building and watched as group after group of acolytes and guardians entered and exited the offices of the Department of the Faith. Her pursuers were in there, all 4 of them, waiting for her to slip up. She had no idea what she was going to do. One thing was certain, however. All of them had to die. There was no other option. People being put into corners. People being squeezed. Who's hiring who to do what? What's with all these conspiracies? Is everyone working together? Like, who knows? Not even Maki's going to tell you. Chapter 37. Sophris. She is here. Who? Where? Joran was used to Sophris hovering near his mind. He almost smiled. The woman from the dockyard. The fighter that helped Creel escape. Tall Lunari? Long knife? Machine pistol? Sophris sent Joran a picture of her in 3 dimensions so he could walk around her in his mind. That's her, all right. Who is she? Her name is Maki Samuda. I don't know much more than that. She was a police detective on Antares until the attack. Police detective? Hitaki must know her. I'll make a call. That will be good. See, I don't like that because he knew she was a cop. But maybe he just recognized her as a cop. Detective? Maybe I'll say, detective? Hitaki must know her. I'll make a call. That will be good. You say she's here? At the office? Correct. She is wearing a disguise, but it's her. I'm coming to the window. Be careful. She's here to kill you. You don't say. Joran appeared at a window high above the ground. He was barely a sliver. If he hadn't been bonded to him, Sophris would not have noticed. Sophris directed Joran's attention to a woman across the street from the building. She was seated at a small table outside a restaurant, pretending to eat a bowl of noodles. She'd been recording the movements of people in and out of the building for 10 minutes, thereabouts. When she first arrived, she'd pretended to retie her shoelaces near a potted plant just outside the restaurant. While there, she'd hidden a camera, lens pointed at the front door of the offices. Sophris was in disguise as well, dressed in the sad tatters of cast-off clothing, courtesy of the many rich and well-off citizens who occasionally assuaged their guilt with such small gifts to charity. Nice disguise, my man, Joran chuckled. I hope I've made myself suitably piteous. A few more scabs would be nice, but it's pretty good. Hey, she's on the move. Sophris stayed with her, staying well back of her position. As she rounded a corner, he shuffled off his many coats beside a dumpster, wishing away his illusory accessories with a mental switch. He was invisible. More spycraft. That's fun. A couple things I need to edit. What was the first one? It was police detective, then Hitaki must know her. I'll make a call. That's a small thing. Most people have forgotten who Hitaki is anyway. Yeah. I hope I've made myself suitably piteous. That's a good one. All right. Well, that should do it for now. Email me, everythingisawesomepodcast@gmail.com. Twitter @EIA podcast. I love you. Share your work. Let's chat. Be on the show. Whatever. Share your writing with me. I can critique it or proofread. Whatever you need. Holler at your boy. Peace.